You know, the issue of obesity in the US is widely acknowledged. A staggering 41.9% of Americans grapple with being overweight. It's a concerning trend that seems to escalate annually, making it imperative for those affected to address it promptly. While discussions around the accessibility of fresh food persist, there's unanimous agreement that this is a pressing concern in America. The country's economic affluence might play a role. Our ability to afford not just what we need, but also excess, given our status as a wealthy nation. But imagine a scenario where the obesity rate surpasses the US, exceeding a whopping 71% of the population. It's startling, right? That's the reality in Nauru, a nation that might not be on everyone's radar. Officially called the Republic of Nauru, this tiny island nation resides in the southwestern Pacific Ocean. So, what's behind Nauru's staggering obesity statistics? Are its people more financially prosperous, allowing them access to an abundance of food? Does Nauru boast a fast food industry as pervasive as America's? Or is there a body positivity movement in place? Strangely, not all these factors come into play. Surprisingly, it's not merely about affluence or cultural movements. Nauruans seem to grapple with weight issues without much choice. How could this be? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about history first. Why? You will find out soon. In the past, Nauru was a land of immense wealth, thanks to its discovery of abundant phosphate reserves. This discovery triggered a boom that spanned from the late 19th century to the latter part of the 20th century. To put things into perspective, at its zenith, Nauru boasted nearly a tenth of the world's phosphate reserves, an estimated 42 million tons, a staggering feat on a global scale. Phosphate, a vital mineral for fertilizer production, attracted significant investments and mining operations. The world's demand for phosphate fertilizers soared, driving profitable export prices for Nauru. During this era, mining companies like the Pacific Phosphate Company and the British Phosphate Commissioners worked tirelessly, reaping immense wealth for both the Nauruan government and its people. This prosperity led to substantial royalties flowing into the government's coffers, enabling the implementation of generous social welfare programs. Free healthcare, education, and even all expense-paid overseas trips for citizens became the norm. Nauru's GDP per capita skyrocketed during this boom, surpassing even developed nations like the United States, reaching over $65,000, and the United States GDP was around $54,000 at that time. However, this prosperity came at a hefty environmental cost. The once lush landscapes turned desolate as mining activities stripped the land bare, leaving limited topsoil and disrupting ecosystems. You see, the mining activities in Nauru went beyond just extracting resources. They dramatically altered the island's very landscape and ecosystem. Picture this. The mining operations stripped away not just vegetation, but also the vital topsoil, triggering severe soil erosion. This erosion cascaded into a cycle of land degradation, robbing the terrain of crucial nutrients and leaving behind a desolate, rocky expanse. The repercussions were monumental, resulting in a barren, almost lunar-like landscape. But it didn't stop there. The mining unleashed a domino effect, disrupting the delicate balance of the island's ecology. Groundwater mingled with seawater due to the mining, leading to the salinization of the remaining soil. This rendered most of the soil unsuitable for agriculture, severely limiting Nauru's capacity for vegetation growth. The destruction of native plants not only marred the landscape, but also led to a catastrophic loss of habitats for countless plant and animal species. The island's biodiversity suffered a blow, and the ecological equilibrium was thrown into disarray. The environmental toll extended further. Mining operations churned out copious amounts of dust, polluting the air and further compromising soil quality. This relentless dust stifled plant growth, complicating efforts to revive vegetation. Shockingly, over 80% of Nauru's surface area fell victim to mining, leaving a meager 20% suitable for human habitation or any semblance of agricultural activity. As traditional agriculture and fishing declined due to environmental damage, Nauru increasingly relied on imported food. These imports, often processed and laden with sugars and unhealthy fats, led to a seismic shift in the traditional diet reliant on locally grown crops and fresh seafood. The environmental degradation also sparked a dependence on processed foods, cheaper and more readily available than local alternatives. The transition towards processed options like canned meats, instant noodles, sugary beverages, and snacks marked a threefold increase in consumption compared to traditional diets. This dietary shift became a harbinger of health woes: obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and hypertension surged. Currently, Nauru holds the ignoble title of having the highest adult obesity rate globally, eclipsing 71%. The natural conditions in Nauru, unsuitable for farming, exacerbate the reliance on imported processed foods over fresh options. Why? Because processed foods offer longer shelf lives and come with more affordable price tags, perpetuating a cycle where unhealthy eating becomes the norm due to accessibility and cost factors. Oh, and did any of you ask about fish? Why don't Nauruans rely on more nutritious seafood as their main food source, as they are surrounded by ocean? Oddly enough, despite their oceanic surroundings, reliance on seafood has plummeted drastically in Nauru. Here's the story. During the mining boom, Nauru's population swelled due to an influx of foreign workers. This, coupled with unsustainable fishing practices, triggered overfishing and the depletion of local fish stocks. The mining operations, which involved dumping wastewater and causing sedimentation, took a toll on coral reefs and marine ecosystems, severely impacting fish populations and their breeding habitats. And traditional fishing in Nauru centered around smaller boats and nearer fishing grounds. However, the ravages of overfishing and environmental damage have compelled fishermen to venture farther out, a task made increasingly challenging due to fuel shortages and limited boat maintenance. Consequently, the once accessible fish have become harder for Nauruans to catch. The consequences are striking. Studies reveal an astounding 80% decline in fish consumption compared to pre-mining eras. Today, Nauru imports over 90% of its food, signaling a significant departure from the traditional seafood-based diets. Despite being surrounded by the ocean, the depletion of local fish stocks, compounded by logistical challenges and environmental degradation, has forced Nauruans to alter their diet fundamentally. Now, here's a grim reality that's even more distressing. The clean water crisis in Nauru. Picture this: a small island nation naturally endowed with limited freshwater resources due to its geographical constraints, tiny size, porous limestone geology, and a conspicuous absence of surface water bodies like rivers or expansive lakes. Adding insult to injury, the mining activities wreaked havoc on Nauru's precious freshwater sources. The infiltration of seawater and pollutants into the island's groundwater rendered previously accessible freshwater unfit for drinking or sustaining agriculture. These mining operations also tampered with the island's landscape and drainage systems, disrupting the natural groundwater recharge process and drastically reducing the overall availability of freshwater resources. The consequence? Nauru heavily leans on desalination to meet its drinking water needs, an expensive and energy-intensive solution necessitated by the scarcity of natural freshwater. Per capita water consumption in Nauru falls remarkably below global averages, hovering around or even dipping below 50 liters per day, a stark contrast to the global average of approximately 200 liters. The restricted access to clean freshwater might have inadvertently contributed to the increased consumption of sugary drinks. With limited or potentially contaminated freshwater sources, sugary beverages could emerge as a more accessible alternative, even though not the healthiest choice. The easy availability, affordability, and aggressive marketing of sugary drinks in Nauru play a significant role in this trend. In fact, studies suggest that Nauruans gulp down an average of over 1 liter of sugary drinks daily, surpassing recommended guidelines by a significant margin. The allure of these beverages, coupled with constrained access to fresh water and healthy alternatives, shapes consumer preferences. While a direct link between water scarcity and high sugary drink consumption isn't conclusively proven, the interplay of various factors creates a landscape where sugary drinks seem more appealing than potentially scarce or contaminated water sources. However, in my opinion, this is not just a coincidence. As we've discussed, excessive consumption of processed foods and sugary drinks over time can lead to serious health issues, like obesity. But in Nauru, the circumstances we explored earlier paint a picture where healthy living seems like an uphill battle for most Nauruans. They seem to have little choice in the matter, and sadly, this lifestyle exacts a heavy toll. Currently, Nauru's life expectancy lingers around 61 years, significantly lower than the global average of 72.8 years. Placing it in the lower echelons of countries worldwide. Nauru's tale carries a profound lesson, a tale of soaring heights followed by a plummet, all due to the lack of restraint in exploiting its natural resources. What's heartbreaking is that the repercussions are borne by the next generation, who might never relish the glory days Nauru once reveled in. Yet, Nauru's story isn't just its own. It's a poignant cautionary tale that extends beyond its borders. It's a narrative teeming with invaluable lessons. By grasping the factors contributing to its downfall, we glean insights crucial for advocating responsible resource management, sustainable development, and fostering healthier dietary choices, both locally and globally. This narrative carries a resounding message that the ramifications of our present neglect can echo into future generations. It's a reminder to tread thoughtfully and make informed decisions. If you found this insight intriguing, do yourself a favor. Smash that like and subscribe button. Because hey, there's everything to gain by learning and staying informed, right? Until next time, take care.